Good afternoon from the garden and welcome to today's harvest video. It's the last weekend of November and now that we're getting close to the shortest day of the year and the evenings are getting dark, we only get to the garden on the weekends. So today, it's Sunday, I'm going to harvest vegetables for the upcoming week and I want to share with you what crops we still have in the garden. In order to still be harvesting with a good variety of crops from the garden this late in the year and beyond, it is important to think ahead. And actually I think all the crops that we have here at the moment that I'll be harvesting are second crops. So that means you need to sow not only early in the year in April or May, but to continue sowing. So some of these crops were sown as early as April, but some were sown as late as August or September. I'd like to start with my favorite crops of the moment, and those are Brassicas. So let's head over to my Brassica bed. Growing Brassicas in one bed together means that I can easily protect them with insect netting, and I always do that after planting them out. When they get bigger and are less susceptible, I take the netting off. But because these Brassicas, they were all sown in June, but because I have a variety of those different kinds, they will be harvested over a very long season. The ones that are almost finished are these cauliflowers over here. I'll be picking the last two today. I'll also be picking some of these cabbages. And then I have kale, which I have already started harvesting, but I'll keep harvesting throughout the winter. And then I have perennial broccoli and winter broccoli, which we'll start harvesting early next year. The biggest problem with growing Brassicas for us is clubroot, which is a very annoying soil disease, and it was already in the soil when we started gardening here, and it's very difficult to get rid of. So what I'm doing is growing the sorts or the kinds that are less susceptible, such as kale, which will usually grow well despite some problems with clubroot. And I also try to seek out varieties that have some resistance, and this variety is called Clapton, and as you can see, the cauliflowers really did well. In comparison, the cabbage over here is not resistant, and you can see some of them have really been stunted and have never grown properly. Nevertheless, we have a few good heads, so I'll be harvesting those, and I'm planning to do some pickling, fermenting, that's what I mean. Also, another thing, when I harvest the cauliflower, I leave the plant, and sometimes it will form additional secondary small cauliflowers. So let's hope for that. Nice tight head. So I'm pretty happy with the result here, even though some of my plants never formed a head. I'm also going to harvest some leeks. Probably just one. I think I have one left at home. The leeks are a great base for soup, and it's definitely soup weather. And these have been sown in April and then transplanted into this bed at the beginning of July, after I have harvested all of the broad beans that I was growing here. And the broad beans leave some nitrogen in the soil if you don't pull out the roots. And because leeks do appreciate some extra nitrogen, they're a good follow-up crop for broad beans. Now for some leafy vegetables. This one, chard, is, I think, maybe the easiest thing for us to grow. I have not even sown it this year because all of the plants that I have in the garden are self-sown. It's one of the best vegetables for self-sowing. As you can see, the quality of the plants is not deteriorating, which will sometimes happen if you only allow a few plants to go to seed and self-sow. What I did was transplant them from the places where they came up to where I wanted them. Like in this bed over here, where I had my trellis with cucumbers and the mini pumpkins. And that one was like down the middle of the bed, and I planted a chard along the edge over here. So now the trellis is gone and the chard again is getting a lot of sun, while during the summer it profited from the part shade created by the plants growing on the trellis. So I'll be picking a good bunch of chard and also some other leafy vegetables from this bed, where I have endive. Wow. This variety, oh. Look at the size of the plant. This variety is called full-hearted Batavian. They're really large, but what I like a lot is that the center is usually very, I don't know whether you can see it. If I open it like that, can you see how blanched the inside is? So what I will often do, the blanching helps to decrease the bitterness of the plant, of the leaves. They are really, there's very little bitterness. But what I do usually with plants, with a plant like that, I will, well, remove the rotted leaves first, of course. But I will use the large leaves for cooking, and then I will save the heart for salad. From the same plant family, I have Radicchio over here, and those were both the endive and the Radicchio were sown at the beginning of July, so they're a great second crop. And because they're somewhat hardy, they can stand until late in fall or winter. Well, and sometimes I will leave. I cut it quite deep, but if you don't and leave the stem or the roots, then you can get some regrowth and keep picking from the plants maybe even next spring. But this is a really nice heart. Often you will have some rot on the outside, but if you take off the rotten leaves, then you still have a really good heart that you can use for salad. One thing I would like to point out, all the growth here in this bed is not wheat, it's a crop. It's winter purslane, which is a really nice mild tasting salad plant, which is very hardy. And I have it also growing in the greenhouse, where it will regrow better than outside, but it is hardy enough for us to grow outside, so I'll also be picking some of that for salad. And in the same bed also have a row of carrots, late sown carrots, ox-heart carrots. And I would like to get out some. Oh, this is beauty. Well, I wanted to say I'm going to use it for soup, but it's looking so good that I think it's better to eat it raw, that it would be a shame to cook it. And my son loves these. They really get even sweeter after a few frosts, as many vegetables do. And also an interesting thing, this was also a late sowing, I think beginning of July probably. And there is no carrot fly damage. So one possible way to avoid carrot fly damage is to sow late in the year. I've pulled out a couple more carrots and they look really good. I also got a really large one, so I think that one will go into soup. Another thing that I want to show you is what my midsummer polyculture bed looks like right now. So most of the plants that are left here are different kinds of different varieties of kale, because one of the things that I sowed here was a package of mixed kale, and I've been picking from these, so we're still harvesting from this bed. There's not much, there are not very many other plants going on. I have one radicchio here from the mixed radicchio package or mixed chicory package. There are also a few chervil plants. There's some corn salad, but I think that's self-sown. So that's about it, but you can see what the bed looks like now. There was an update due. In this bed, I still have a few beetroots left. I don't know whether you have seen my earlier harvest video this year, where I talked about the voles eating our beetroot and the carrots that we sowed in this bed. But even so, there are still a few in this one. Yeah, look at that. This is the beautiful striped Radicchio beet, and there are still a few that are like that have grown. Oh yeah, this is a good example of vole damage, like half a beetroot. This one seems to be whole. Yeah, this is well, mostly, but I can cut this part out and I still have some beetroot left. So that's the story. Oh, look at this one. Yay! There is still some beetroot. But these two have been quite badly damaged. But the leaves are quite nice in winter salads too, so I think I will just leave the damaged roots in the soil and harvest the leaves as long as we can for some variety in our winter salads. I have some more winter greens, winter salads in this double raised bed, and those were sown on the 21st of August for winter harvest. And it is corn salad, or marsh, or lamb salad there's many names, which is a really nice hardy salad plant with a slightly nutty taste. It's our family's favorite. And then I have chervil, which is also pretty hardy and has it's more of a herb, but I like to add some to our salads as well. And it's growing really nicely. I think I got the timing right this time, because sometimes I sow a bit later and then the corn salad does not grow this large before winter. So I'm really happy with this year's harvest. As you can see, they were sown quite closely together, and what I'm doing is harvesting by thinning. What's what I'm calling it. So I'll just, like, when they're close together, I will cut one plant, and then you can see there was another one here, and that one gets more room. And this way I can keep, I've been harvesting from this bed quite for, well, more than a month at least. And I will keep harvesting from it this way. I'm at the back of our garden, which has been planted as a food forest. And there's still one fruit that we are harvesting, and that's medlars. I don't know whether you're familiar with this quite obscure fruit, but I quite like it. And for harvesting, or for eating, not for harvesting, they need to be soft. You can see there, so they need to be blatted. Not rotten, as people sometimes presume, but like soft. And there's the fruit flesh. It has a very peculiar flavor that I do like very much, but some people might not. I let my parents harvest. I let my parents try some when they visited this past week, and they liked it too. So there are some seeds inside, so either you can eat it out with a spoon, or what I like to do is just suck out the flesh and then spit out the pits that I don't eat. No, it's good. So this is today's harvest, and I think together with the winter squash and sweet potatoes and other crops that we have already started at home, we have enough to be eating homegrown produce this coming week, which is really nice to still be able to do that this late in the year. I hope you enjoyed this harvest video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I would also like to know what you're still harvesting from your gardens. Happy gardening!